In today's service, we will be exploring the ways in which at-risk youth are better integrated into society through help of social skills developed and refined through gaming. Thank you, Janice. We will now acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of Treaty 6 and home of Métis Nation of Alberta Region 4. We also acknowledge the Inuit and other diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors have marked this territory for centuries, a place that has welcomed many peoples from around the world to make their home here. We at Westwood UU commit to restoring and honoring the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. We strongly believe that truth must be acknowledged to move forward to reconciliation. Together, we call upon all our collective communities to build a stronger understanding of all peoples who dwell on this land we call home. Hello all, Westwood UU, Tansei all who are new. Bonjour to Bryan Sali, our speaker for today. Cheers to all our volunteers helping this Sunday. We hope you like the songs we're gonna play. My name is Katie, I am a she. I really hope you'll join us for coffee and tea. Here at Westwood, we covenant to be gentle with each other, value and practice inclusivity, trust that decisions are made with care and consideration, and take responsibility for tasks and problems as a community. I will now read you a poem called The Great Thing About Dungeons and Dragons I Tell My Friend Is You Can Be Anything You Imagine by Adelina Rose Gowans. And once I was a boy, once a pyromaniac, once named for a seabird curtained mid-flight. Once I spoke 3 languages, played 7 instruments, banished a 5-headed dragon god, sharp-toothed, sleepy. I was a liar, then lawful good, a lullaby, well-mannered, disaster. I carried a deck of marked cards, burned chainmail into my arms on accident. All paladin, all freckled. Once I cheated death. An echo braced my body for the end and won. I was fanged, tusked. I was a daughter. I was a son. I now invite you to join in singing song number 128 in the Gray Book, For All That Is Our Life. Shalom. This is the season of anticipation, the marking of time leading up to an expected event. Here at Westwood, we are marking the weeks leading up to winter solstice, the turning of the earth, which places us at the farthest angle from the sun, the shortest day and the longest night of the year. Jen will now read about the candle of peace.
The candle of peace represents the promise of peace in the world and in our lives. We light this candle in the south, the direction associated with the element of fire, the desire for life, and the direction of the heart. We acknowledge our needs for life and love and focus our efforts toward being effective ambassadors of peace.
We will now be singing the Advent Carol verses 1 and 2.
Over shines the light in these mountains.
Carl Ulrich will now be performing the membership recognition ceremony.
Don and Mitch and Katie could come front here. Westwood's purpose to be a compassionate community of free religious thought, inviting all people to rest, grow, and serve the world. In this ritual, the Westwood community welcomes new members as they commit to join our congregation and our Unitarian Universalist denomination. Every ritual is an opportunity not only for those named, but for each of us present to hear these words with fresh ears and to reflect on our personal commitments. Becoming a member involves thoughtful consideration, getting to know the congregation, choosing how best to contribute, receiving affirmation by the board of directors, trustees, and today, in our member recognition ceremony, entering into a covenant with the whole congregation. So today we are pleased to have Don and Katie and Mitch. We welcome you becoming new members. Choosing to become a member of the Unitarian Universalist congregation is an act of commitment to help support the work of this congregation and to be open to asking this community to also help support you in your life and in your growth. We hope that you will find within this group a place where you can bring your concerns and your celebrations, where you will know that other hearts hear and understand. We hope to be a place for the unfolding of your spirit and the life expanding of your mind. And we work to be a place where you can bring your ideas and your gifts and your in fulfillment for the purposes of this congregation. Now, if the congregation will read on the screen, we have the first slide. Oh. Yes. We welcome you into our beloved community and into the larger circle of Unitarian Universalism and our liberal religious heritage.
We welcome the enrichment that your unique life experience will bring to our community. We look forward to knowing you better and you us as we journey forward together.
So, to Don and Katie and Mitch, do you accept the blessings and responsibilities of membership here in the free religious community of Westwood Unitarian Congregation?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and then for all of us in the congregation, the rest of us all together,
as we journey forward, creating our history together as a community of people who create open spaces for the growth of the free spirit and the free mind. In doing so, we apply our gifts in the transformation of ourselves, our congregation, and our world. In the covenant of fellowship and love, we unite to promote spiritual growth and ethical commitment to minister to each other's needs and to those of humanity, to celebrate the sacred moments of life's passage and to honor the divinity within each of us.
So now we'll ask our president, Lorian Kennedy, on behalf of the Westwood community to extend the word of fellowship and a token of light on behalf of all of us.
now wish to extend a token of light to each of you to help enliven your experience with Westwood and sustain you. Our new members will be signing the membership card shortly.
So thank you all. We warmly welcome the new members. During the social time following the service, we invite all Westwoodians to please take the time to introduce yourself and personally welcome Dawn and Mitch and Katie to the Westwood membership.
Thank you, Carl. The lighting of candles of concern and celebration is a cherished tradition in many Unitarian Universalist congregations. It allows us to understand each other's worlds a little better, enabling us to share the joys and offer comfort to those with concerns. It helps us be a true community. You may share with the congregation your joy or concern, or you may choose to light a candle in silence. I invite you now to light candles of concern or celebration. Online friends, please raise your hand if you have if you would like us to light a candle as you speak. We will begin with those who are in person. And now for our affirmation. May the light of these candles inspire us to use our power, to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to serve the spirit of truth in loving affection and trusting hope. Each week during our Sunday service, we take a few minutes to acknowledge the gifts we both bring to and receive from this compassionate community, gifts of talent, time, and treasure. Today, we are blessed with the musical talent of Janice Reynolds, as well as the gifts of time and service from those who plan, greet, coordinate our sound and video systems, and clean up after. If you wish to make a gift of treasure, the information for doing so is on the right-hand side of this slide. Please join me as we sing From You I Receive. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Please welcome Bryan Sali. He will be telling us about the Level Up Gaming League, which was founded back in 2017-2018, and which since then has been effective in helping disenfranchised youth gain the social skills they need to succeed.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time. Just a little caveat at the beginning, the slideshow was really built to just give to people. It has lots of text in it, so I don't expect everybody to read it. Apparently you can, if you need more information, it'll be available afterwards. So I'll just kind of speak to some of the slides as they come up and give you my impression of it. Back in 2017, I founded a very small nonprofit in town called Level Up Gaming League, built on the premise that there's power in gaming, and we can harness it to do social good and specifically to help individuals build a better future for themselves. We are incorporated here as a nonprofit. We're not a charity, but we are a nonprofit incorporated in 2017, but we've been actually operational since 2016. Next slide, please. So I used to work, well, I guess I do now again. I recently got back into the industry. I work with people experiencing homelessness. Specifically, my clients were primarily youth, and working with a lot of the social workers, taking a look at the existing programming that was out there for youth. We realized, or I realized, that there was certainly some holes in the system that weren't being addressed. Primarily, this connection to a larger social community, which I understand this is what your year is all about. So good timing, I guess, to be here, but also activity-based learning in the areas of self-advocacy and conflict management, teamwork, communication skills, those types of things. Youth sit through so many programs and so many courses where they're lectured at by all the different teams that are supporting them, particularly at-risk youth, where they're told how to do these things, but they never really get to experience doing them in a safe space. They get to experience it on the street, and that's never a good place to learn. And the other one that is still, to this day, a big problem is after hours and weekend programming for at-risk youth. Throughout the week, there is a dearth of things that they can do. But come weekends and in the summer and evenings, there's really not a lot that they can do that is going to get them A, off the street, and B, those other two things that I previously mentioned, connecting to a community and learning something. Next slide, please. So I created Level Up, and what we do is we take tabletop role-playing games, more commonly known as Dungeons and Dragons, but there are lots of different versions of it. And let me tell you, this is feels a bit odd to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons in a church, especially when you're 44 and lived through things back in the 80s and 90s where this was a very taboo topic to be talked about in public at all. So I would like to recognize how far we've come as a society that we can actually now recognize this game as a force for good and not see it as something satanic like it used to be. So that aside, I created this nonprofit based on the idea that what this game did for me when I was a kid helped me build all sorts of social skills. It made me confident, it made me creative, it allowed me to stand up in front of people and speak. I learned literacy and numeracy, conflict management, team building. All of these different things and many, many more are built into this game. And I thought, well, if it did that for me, it can do that for other people. And I looked around and nobody else was doing this, so I decided I should do it. And so I did. And we started working with Youth Empowerment and Support Services here in town. They were our first client. And so what did I say on this slide? Yeah, what do we do? So we build role-playing games. I don't know if anybody here has ever played a role-playing game, but one person leads the story and the other people kind of participate in it. It's a collaborative storytelling game. Dice are used, and there's an element of randomness to it, which makes it fun. But we build stories that are designed in a way to address these larger social issues, but also these individual social issues that people need to learn from. And then we bring kids together and we get them to play the game, and they're having fun. And so we're guiding them down this road gently where they are learning all sorts of different things. And so we partner with these bigger agencies like Yes, and I'll mention a couple others that we're currently working with, and they bring their clients who are interested to the table, and we lead these games for them. We build these very safe spaces. We are very picky in who we bring on as volunteers. They not only have to be excellent storytellers, but they have to be very open and accepting individuals who are capable of navigating complex issues with youth in the moment. And we work with these organizations to find out, what are the issues that these particular kids are facing? What are the issues that you want us to help them with? And then we build games around that, and we help guide them through these processes. So some of the things that I mentioned in here is self-advocacy, but we've also addressed issues like racism and colonialism and misogyny and all of these other forms of bigotry that we're seeing nowadays. And we get them to interact with each other and collaborate on telling this story. And in doing so, they take their characters, which in essence are persona, and they become heroes, which is oftentimes something that they've never had an opportunity to do before. And it's a truly empowering thing, and it's really uplifting for us to watch these kids become heroes in their own story and work together to overcome these huge obstacles, to overcome colonial and institutional racism. And they get to actually topple these institutions that are bringing them down and see it actually happen. And they know it's a game, but they also know that for a moment that they got to do something really good, which is amazing. Next slide, please. So yeah, this is a big one. How do the games help? First, let me say that there is almost no research on this. We've looked around, and we partnered with the University of Alberta Department of Psychology, and we did an initial study on how to study the impacts of what we do. So we got a grant and we worked with, and the person who's doing that study is now actually doing their doctoral thesis on us and the work that we do. And so the results of her thesis we're going to use to apply for a SSHRC, which is a national research grant, a longitudinal research grant, where we can hopefully study the impacts of gaming on social development. And it will be the first of its kind in the world, actually. So it's really great to be a part of that. As someone who comes from the gaming community and had grew up knowing that this was a good thing, like I know in my heart, like Dungeons and Dragons is a good thing. To see that there's people out there who want to research it and actually see, and I mean, they're coming into it with this idea that they don't know what the results are going to be, but I know what the results are going to be. So I know they're going to prove my thesis here. But so that kind of coming on that basis, there is no research to support what we're saying right now. We just have a lot of personal experience observing this in the kids that we work with. But what we've seen and what others have seen around the world, and I mean, I will say this, there's a lot of groups down in the States and some here in Canada that are using this with people in the spectrum of autism to great results. A lot of psychologists using this in small group sessions. And so that is a bit of a foundation for what we do. But the basic ideas of like literacy and numeracy is something that are really built into the game. You have to be able to do simple math quickly. You have to be able to read and write. You also have to be able to speak to each other in small groups. And you have to really work your creative muscles to do that. But beyond that, in the kind of the greater scope, and I was talking earlier about this to someone here, can't find your face, there you are, about the community. I think the greatest impact of this game is the community. The story that I told her is just on a personal level. When COVID started, I started to run my own personal game online and reached out to a couple of old friends, some who I haven't seen since high school, some for longer, and some new people who I had never met before, and we brought them together. We've been playing almost every week for 4 years or 3 years now. And we've become a really tight group. And two of the people that are in my games are veterans. And they both independently come to me to tell me how important this game has been to them in helping navigate their PTSD, addressing issues that they may be triggering to them in their PTSD, but it's done in a safe space and it's done in a way that's creative as opposed to combative. And they have thanked the entire group for that, and also just keeping us sane during COVID, this weekly touch point with like-minded individuals. But beyond that, for at-risk youth, one of the things that they often struggle with is, things that we take for granted is etiquette, turn-taking, manners, long-term friendships that don't end when you leave the shelter and go back to the street or vice versa. Connection to adults who support them and want what's best for them, but aren't paid to be there. There's a different power dynamic when you're playing a board game with a social worker who's paid to be there than you're playing it with a volunteer who chooses to be there out of the kindness of their heart because they care for you. There's a very different power dynamic there, and how they interact with you is different. And then if there's players, and we've seen this, actually our first group of kids, one of the players decided to take the leap from being a player to being a game master and running his own games, and we equipped him with everything he needed to do that. And we found out later that he was running sessions twice a week in the shelter for other kids who had never played before. He's learning some amazing skills about organizing people, about writing and being creative, but also about project management and decision making and situational analysis and writing and all these other things that he can carry forth into the rest of his life. And what makes it powerful is this last point here, is working within a fantasy setting with assumed personas allows players to explore complex social issues in a safe and fun space in a way that is unavailable in any other format. It gives people an opportunity to explore what it is to be themselves in a way that is safe, because there's no harm in failure when it's not you that's failing, it's your character or your persona that's failing. And so we encourage failing forward. We encourage them to play with different gender identities and different races, elves and dwarves and such, but they get to explore what it is to be these different things. One of our very first players, in fact, the one who took the leap to being a storyteller, his very first character, he identified as he, him. His very first character identified as she, her. And it was a very interesting thing to watch him develop her through this story and watch her grow up into this, what literally started as a girl, grew into the woman, and all of that and how it affected. And coincidentally, the issue that they wanted us to work with this group of kids was how they were treating women. The caseworkers and social workers within the unit were being treated pretty poorly by this group of guys. And one of them created a woman. And through the game, we were able to address all sorts of issues with him about what it is to be a woman, which, I know nothing about, but I have lots of women in my life who were able to give me some advice. And it was really beautiful thing to see. And the proof was in the pudding, in that when that campaign ended, there were no more issues with how they were treating women within the, I'm going to say unit, but within the house. Next slide, please. So I don't really need to speak to this slide much. I kind of spoken to all of it about what do we do that kind of addresses the gap. I've talked about all of this, but one thing I will say is about intentionality and tailoring our services to the different groups. It's very difficult to do what we do with large and often unpredictable groups of kids. We don't know from week to week who's going to be attending and who's not going to be attending. And so if any of my volunteers watch this, big, huge shout out to them, because they've managed to craft these beautiful, unique and individualized storylines within this broader concept, trying to keep it as generalized as possible, because who knows which way it's going to go on any given day. When it's a collaborative storytelling environment, you can only go so far in pre-planning. And so they've managed to do that. They've managed to thread that needle, and I don't really understand how they've done it, because when I started this, I don't run games anymore. I chair the board, but when I started this, I was working with groups of 5 or 6. I recently stepped in for a volunteer who was sick, and there was 12 kids at the table. And they do this every other week, and they're incredible. So I would like to thank them for that. We wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for them. Next slide, please. So right now, we recently, when COVID started, we stopped working with, they stopped all external programming, and they have recently come back, and we have brought them back in as a client, which is something I'm immensely proud of. They're an incredible organization. To be working with them again just fills my heart right now. Boys and Girls Club, Strathcona County. So we provide on-site services with their canteen program. That is one of the they've been, I can't remember how long they've been with us, probably a year and a half right now. We've been running services with them, and the Bridge Wellness Hub in Fort Saskatchewan, that's the one where there's like 12 kids. We actually run 2 sessions at a time concurrently in 2 different rooms. One of them for kids who have really never played and are oftentimes quite a bit younger, and the other one for basically teenagers who are more experienced and been playing the game. So we kind of like phase in, but they're running at the same time in the same world, storylines that impact each other. It's very interesting. And so that one, I think every other week we're talking 20 to 30 kids that are attending that. And I have 2 volunteers that do that, which is a huge workload on them. Next slide, please. So yeah, our future. We've never struggled to find clients. It was something that surprised me when I started this. I thought for sure we were going to have issues convincing people that Dungeons and Dragons was a great way to teach kids social skills, but the social workers and counselors and executive directors, they saw it instantly, to their credit. And so we've never had a problem with that. In fact, we've got calls for services from all over Alberta, primarily Calgary right now, and no way to fill that need. So we are entirely volunteer run. Everybody is a volunteer, nobody gets paid. But we can only expand so far because my executive director is also a full-time teacher. And as we all know, full-time teacher means double time. And he's doing that and he's running this organization. So he's tapped right now. So we do offer a sliding scale pay for service program, but we only do that because we have to. Our where we started and where we'd like to be is that this should be a free service. There should be no organization that can do it. And to be honest, we will provide our services for free. We set out this very intentionally at the beginning. One of our goals is that one kid is enough. So we will provide a volunteer even if it's just one child, and that is okay with us. So we're hoping to find funding right now. This is kind of our big thing. We have two particular needs. So next slide, please. Our first need is our board. So like I said, I'm the chair of the board. I founded the organization. I was the executive director for a while. And when I had a kid, I decided I couldn't be the executive director anymore. And I stepped on to chairing the board. Our board is quite small, not as diverse as I would like it to be. We just recently brought on a new board member from Calgary, but we need some more opinions. We need some more help in governance. I am a builder. I am not the person that can take this to the next level. So I am going to be stepping down as chair of the board as soon as we can find somebody to replace me. I'll stay on the board to help them as much as I can and give guidance, but what we really need is somebody with more experience in this board governance and directorship role and growth modeling than I have. That's not my strength, and I'm okay admitting that. So we're looking for somebody who has the skills and capacity to lead the organization to a long-term financially stable situation. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to find permanent funding out there, but we don't know how to find it. None of us are that serve on the board are that we're either from the gaming community or, I've got a board member who's a banker. That's great, but he doesn't have grant writing experience. You know what I mean? He's great with the numbers, but he doesn't know how to find grants. And so we're hoping to find somebody who has some experience in finding funding and take us from an operational board to a governance board where we really should be. Because my board members, they are also burning out. Next slide, please. Which brings me to the next point. My executive director is amazing. His name is Mark Mellenberg. Huge shout out to him. He took the organization from small little one client thing to where it is now. I mentioned a new board member. We just brought on a new board member. She's in Calgary and has offered to set up an office in Calgary. We have a ton of people down there who want our services. We have no ability to provide oversight until now. So we will be setting up hopefully a satellite office in Calgary and offering services down there as well. But to be able to truly expand and do what we need to do and to bring on the volunteers that we need to bring on to help, particularly in Strathcona and Fort Saskatchewan, where we've also been connected to the Autism Society of, I believe, Alberta, and we'll be offering programming for them as well. I need to get my executive director full-time, which he has expressed an interest in, but to do that, I need to pay him money. And to find that, I need someone who can write grants, and I don't know how to do that. So we're looking for anybody, volunteers, potential board members, whoever, anybody in the grant writing sphere, anybody who's got connections to big money who can come and help us. I'm not ashamed to say it, like we're asking for money, and I'm not talking huge amounts, but I mean, you guys all understand what it takes to run a small nonprofit and to hire somebody away from a teacher's salary nowadays. It's not a small amount, but it's not really big. So we're looking for people who can help us with that. That is what we really need. And the other volunteer capacity issue we have is obviously Fort Saskatchewan and Strathcona County. Those are big workloads for my volunteers. I need more volunteers. So if you know anybody who plays tabletop role-playing games, particularly if they're north side and is interested in helping out, please send them our way. We need more volunteers up north to help these kids. They don't have to have experience working with at-risk youth. Actually, the kids we're working with up there are pretty low acuity. They have pretty low barriers, so they're pretty easy to work with. And we can teach all those skills. We just need them to know how to play Dungeons and Dragons, well, how to run a Dungeons and Dragons game. Yeah, those are two big needs. We need money and we need volunteers. I am definitely open to more board members. I would like to expand our board quite a bit, and we know more on-site volunteers as well. So if you know anybody, please feel free to connect them to us. We definitely need that. Next slide, please. Our website is currently down. Our web hosting company decided to double their costs overnight for us, so we had to stop that service. And my board member, who's also a web designer, is very busy, so he will get to that when he gets to it. So you can't check out our webpage. We are not really present on social media. We were at the beginning, but now we don't need to be, and we don't have the time to do it. I actually worry if we go on social media too much, we might generate too much interest in what we can do. But I'm an excellent person to contact. Shoot me an email, send me a text message. If you call me, I probably won't answer. Not right away anyways, leave me a voicemail, I'll get back to you. Yeah, you can find us online. You can find stories about us online for sure, particularly the researcher who's been working with us. She's been instrumental in actually getting our presence out there. So if you Google Level Up Gaming League Edmonton, you'll find some stories about her and the work she's doing. So yeah, thank you. I think that's everything from me. Thanks for letting me be here. I really do appreciate speaking to you all. So, thanks.
Can we ask questions?
Sure.
Just repeat the question after she asks.
You got it.
So, first of all, thank you for this. I've never played this game. I have no idea what it is. I found what you said very inspiring, and you already gave us a little example about this person from he, she. But could you also mention a story that made the most impact on you for a change in a person? So when you were mentioning that you were listening to what's happening, so could you?
So the question was, can I give an example of one of the stories that inspired me?
Yeah.
That person is actually the one who inspired me the most. But I've already mentioned that. And so the other one would be in my personal, the game that I play personally, I run personally. I told you I had two vets that play in it. And one of them has spoken to me about their PTSD and how this group is helping them cope through their PTSD and manage stress and things like that. And throughout COVID, things were quite rocky for them. And this group, I watched them starting really struggling to manage stress in these team dynamics, particularly team of people that he didn't know at all. He knew he knew two of them, one of the other players and me, and the other three people or four people he'd never met before. And struggling to manage that dynamic, and I could watch it on his face. I could really see him like tense up and get stressed. And as the years have gone by, and as he's gotten comfortable with them, and him and I have spoken, and I've tweaked my delivery a little bit. I've watched his levels of stress go down and down and down until they're basically non-existent. And I know him on a personal level, and I've been watching him, so I know his family story as well and what's going on with his family. And actually the stress in that world has actually increased. And so the fact that he's managing to find peace and moments of stress-free life in this game is kind of a testament to the power of the community, I think, that it has developed there. So his stresses elsewhere have gone up, but his time here in the game, when we meet once a week, it's a moment of peace for him. So that's been helpful. Anything else? Any other questions? No? All right, perfect. Oh yeah, you.
I don't know how to play Dungeons and Dragons, although I am interested. Is there any other way to volunteer?
We do actually, I should have mentioned, we do actually have need for administrative support volunteering. Our executive director obviously has a lot of things that they do. So we actually do have a variety of administrative needs that could be met by volunteers as well. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
much.
You're welcome.
Now we are going to have a period of meditation. I would like us to spend 2 minutes thinking of ways in which we can help disenfranchised youth help obtain access to and maintain a community that helps provide for their needs. Okay, and now I would like to invite you to join in singing song number 1028 in the Teal Book, Fire of Commitment.
When the
I would like to close the service with a poem by youth from the Lake Erie Inc. workshop called Community Poem as We Extinguish the UU Flame. Community is a shooting star. It brightens up everything from far and wide. It creates teamwork, which is good. Like a constellation, it brings people together. Sometimes it's hard to see, but it's always there. Community makes people more beautiful. It brings people from other cultures together, all under the same sky. We all are stars, and we all are together. Thank you, Rebecca. We will now hear our postlude. Thank you again, Janice.